'Tis a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. The countdown is on, just 2 days away from actual Eagles football. We're going to talk about Eagles football and the practice version and getting ready for the exhibition season. We got you covered for the next 2 hours here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. I'm Jody McDonald. Jeff Kerr is my co-host today. But as you can see on your screen, John McMullen is going to start the show with us today as a reporter. Well, that's what he does every single day. Every once in a while, he's got to suck it up and host with me. J-Mac, how you doing this morning?
Doing well. Gearing up for a hot one. The heat is back, my friends.
It is. Go ahead, Jeff.
It actually feels like summer now, J-Mac.
Yeah, it does. We've gotten kind of lucky. I think that luck ends today.
It's going to be hot today, and then it's going to be hot on Thursday as well when they take on the Steelers. I just checked the weather. Kickoff, it's still going to be north of 90 degrees. It's a good thing they've got a 90-man roster. I take it we'll see all 90 of them. Well, there's a couple guys that are hurt, but those that are physically capable of playing, will they try and spread it out as evenly as possible? Because if not, you could have somebody passing out due to dehydration on the sidelines.
Yeah, they're going to be very cautious. I mean, you look at the way they've handled this camp just as a whole, and it's been, a little bit less than seasonable, as I mentioned, for most of it. They're being very cautious, typically with injuries, but, that will expand to heat. And obviously, you do have the 90-man roster. So this is not a regular season game where you only have 47 that can go out there and has to play essentially a whole game. So, yeah, I mean, look, those third stringers, get ready, man. Get those electrolytes because you're going to be out there.
John, Jody and I were discussing how much we think Jalen Ertz is going to play on Thursday. How long do you think he's going to play, and do you think Nick Sirianni will answer that if it's asked?
I hope he answers it. He tends to give us a little more information than Doug Peterson. I mean, he might have not even gotten to that yet. I would imagine he's got to play a quarter. I mean, this is a young quarterback with 4 career NFL starts who hasn't exactly been ripping it up on a daily basis. I mean, this guy needs reps, and this guy needs live reps against somebody else, against a different defense that's trying to accomplish some different things. And I think it's important he plays a little bit. I will say that.
How many of those reps that he gets for a quarter or however long it's going to be, slightly more, slightly less, are going to include RPOs? We know what Jalen Hurts' strong suits are, and a big part of his game should be his ability to pull it down and run it, or a designated play in which he runs it. You think we're going to see more than just 1 or 2 RPOs in the time that Ertz is on the field on Thursday night?
Well, I will say I think that's going to be a really, really big part of the Eagles' offense. I mean, a really big part. So, it's kind of the frame. Do you want to show it or do you want to hide it? Do you want to put it out there for everybody to see? But that kind of stuff is overrated. I'd rather try to get the execution down because everybody knows what they're going to do in this league. And if anything, it's more apparent now. And I wrote about this on Sports Illustrated, and Nick kind of admitted it. I mean, that's what he does well. He's not going to sit back in the pocket and put his back foot in the ground and move the football consistently down the field. You have to take advantage of what he does well. And that's getting, this intriguing part of his skill set, the ability to make plays, off-schedule stuff, all that kind of stuff. It's difficult for coaches to lean on that because there's rarely any consistency. You can't just go out and say, play sandlot football. But I think similar to what we said about Zach Ertz and 12 personnel versus 11 personnel, Nick is coming to the grips that, okay, if he's here, I got to play him because he's one of my best players in reference to Zach Ertz. In the case of Jalen Hurts, it's like, okay, he's not a great, consistent thrower. Let's take advantage of what he does well. And by the way, I think that's one of the positives of Nick Sirianni. That's kind of what we were sold when you go back to Indianapolis and they had the 3 different quarterbacks and Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, 3 different offenses. They molded the offense around the strengths of the player. I think they're going to do that here as well.
Sirianni said Sunday night that he doesn't have an extensive background in RPOs as you would like, but it seems like a lot of the coaches he hired are deep in that. Kevin Patullo, Jason Michael, he mentioned. I think Brian Johnson was the other. I mean, how extensive of a background do those guys have?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin was at Texas A&M, so he's got a reference from the college level. Brian obviously was at Florida, so he's got a terrific understanding of it. And Jason had Marcus Mariota, so he had to essentially build an offense around him in Tennessee when he was a coordinator. And then he always brings up Tom Manning when he was out in Indianapolis as well. He's a Iowa State offensive coordinator. So yeah, he's gotten, and it was Frank Reich, because obviously Frank came off the Eagles Super Bowl success, and really they changed the entire offense when Carson Wentz went down, because Nick Foles was very effective, not in the running part of it, but just understanding sort of those fake zone reads and how to manipulate something he did well. He wanted, that one quick read, and Frank kind of encouraged him to get up to speed on that part of football. And I've always thought it's interesting. Football is one of the few industries in the world where innovation trickles up. It doesn't trickle down. And in other words, it really starts at the high school level. Forget about college. And then it goes to college, and then it finally arrives in the NFL. And you see it with these RPO offenses. It might not be as aesthetic as you would like. I always say, I want to see Bill Walsh West Coast plays. I want to see, but you don't have the time to prepare for that to begin with anymore. You can't practice. You can't do anything. So you got to simplify things. And as much as Chip Kelly became a punchline in his ending here in Philadelphia and what happened in San Francisco, and he's not exactly beating the world down at UCLA, and he was ahead of the curve. He really was. Couldn't adjust, but he was ahead of the curve as far as where the NFL was going.
Certain things, yes. Other things, not so much, and as stubborn as the day is long. But we're not here to judge Chip Kelly. I don't know that we've ever touched on this, John, or since Nick Sirianni has certainly taken over, and it becomes a different question with every passing day. Has he mentioned whether he does or doesn't still talk to Frank Reich? I know when he got hired, he talked about what Frank meant to him, and Frank helping him out and telling him what to do in his Eagle interview and what he learned from Frank and like. But are they still conversing? They both have a pretty full plate of getting their own personal teams ready. But has the coach mentioned whether he talks to his former boss anymore in Indianapolis?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not like Frank cut him off. Frank is very proud of him. Yeah, I mean, they text all the time. Ultimately, you do get busy this time of year, and things differ. But no, he's a huge sounding board for Nick Sirianni. I imagine not only when it comes to offensive football in the NFL, but also how to handle Philadelphia. That's been a big part of it as well. But yeah, those two remain very, very close. And that's how this league is. I mean, you saw Doug Peterson the other day. Everybody lost their mind when he showed up at Chicago camp with the Bears colors on. That's just about Matt Nagy. They've been close for years and years and years. You develop these relationships, and Nick Sirianni, yeah, he knows what Frank Reich did for him, and he's probably the first guy he will go to for advice.
I think Quez Watkins has earned at the very least a roster spot, but does he have a legitimate chance to start, assuming, Jalen Reagor or Travis Fulgham don't step up here?
Well, he should, but I kind of said that a little bit yesterday. I don't think he does. I'd like to see him get more first-team reps to see what he can do, because I do think people he's been very impressive, but generally he's playing second team and third team reps. Now there's been some injuries. He's been with the first team on occasion, but not a ton. I think that's what you do. He's shown so much against the backups. You give him more reps with the first team and see what he can do with them. And a lot of that comes to the point, mainly Jalen, to be honest. Jalen Reagor hasn't had a good camp. Travis Fulgham's been okay. And we know Devontae hasn't been out there. There's plenty of opportunities to get him snaps with the first team. You got a head coach who constantly talks about competition. Look, I mean, they're not seizing the job, these receivers. So other guys should have an opportunity. We talk about cornerback and Zach McPherson. Well, Darius Slay and Steven Nelson have seized those jobs. I mean, they're the starters. They played well. The receivers, you can't say that about. So, yeah, I think Quez should have an opportunity. If you ask me, will he get an opportunity? I don't think so.
There are a couple of positions, and receiver Watkins is compared to Reagor being one of them. The other, of course, is left tackle with Mailata and Dillard. You could even stretch and say there's another one or two on the team where it would seem to be a decision by the head coach putting the best player out there, the guy that's going to help him win on that given week, and what would look best for the organization, whether they invested a draft pick in a player and or gave a player a significant contract and like. And sometimes those things get at loggerheads and they don't necessarily mesh and match up. There's going to be at least one during the season where we go, all right, Sirianni took a stand here. And Sirianni said, no, this guy is earning the time. That's why I'm putting him out there. I don't care where he was drafted. I don't care what you're playing him. I'm just evaluating football. Which position or which player do you think that'll be that Sirianni will take his first stand on that, no, I got to play this guy because he's just flat out better in my estimation?
Well, I think if he's here, Zach Ertz, I think he's going to play a lot. And, so that's sort of up to Howie Roseman. So, I mean, if you don't want him to play, you better trade him. So you better Billy Bean him. You better get him out of the building because he's going to play if he's here. And really, he's outplayed Dallas Goedert. So, I mean, he's going to play. Forget about the receivers. It's going to be interesting at left tackle because most people think Jordan Mailata is lapping Andre Dillard. I don't think it's quite that big of a blowout, but it's more because not because Andre has played well, but I think people kind of overblow, Jordan Mailata. And poor Jordan, he's Walter Jones, he's Orlando Pace, he's already getting fitted for the gold jacket. So I don't think that one's as big. And we just brought up Quez Watkins. That would be a big one because Jalen Reagor's a first-round pick from 2020. And if he goes out there and says, you know what, Quez Watkins better, I'm going to play Quez Watkins. I mean, that's one you could say, okay, that's Nick Sirianni putting his foot down.
Let me follow up there a second, Jeff. You mentioned that in your estimation, in practices so far, all 11 of them, that Ertz has actually been better than Dallas Goedert. We know Ertz did not have a good year last year. He missed some time. There was some injury involved there. But even when he was out there on the field, he didn't look like Zach Ertz, the 100 and change catch guy that we know that he can be. Why do you think Ertz had as bad a year as he did last year, John?
Well, I think part of it was the quarterback. I think part of it was he was upset, and he probably didn't handle it well. He took it on the field. He was a little bit disappointed about how he felt the organization treated him, and then finally have the injury. So I think it was sort of, as it always is in these types of situations, sort of a cocktail of different things. Now he knows, I think, this is it, one way or the other. He's either going to play out his contract and leave, or they're going to trade him. So I think he's come to grips with that. He's healthy, obviously, so that helps. And then, presumably, hopefully, for Eagles fans' sakes, you're going to have somewhat better play at the quarterback position because you can't go much lower than it was last year. So, and by the way, Zach would probably not agree with that because he's very good friends with Carson still, but that's the truth. So I think all of those things are at least he's in a little bit of a better place. And I think he's proven he's still got gas left in the tank. He's had a very good camp.
Since we're on the tight ends, I forgot to ask you this yesterday. Does Tyree Jackson really have a shot to make this team over, say, Richard Rodgers?
I keep him. So one or the other. I'm not letting him go through waivers. You know, and people say you need that spot, and boy, I think that's overblown because game day rosters are 47 to begin with. So you're not having 6 guys active anyway. So it's not like you can't protect somebody on the back end of your roster. The Eagles did it for 2 years with Jordan Mailata. He wasn't ready to play. They just stuck him because they didn't want to risk putting him through waivers. I see some of the same things with Jackson. He's so impressive physically. He can catch. Catch the football naturally. He's got the quarterback background, so he understands route running. He understands what the quarterback wants to see. I think he's going to be a good player. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 years, so it's a long-term project. But yeah, I mean, if I'm Richard Rodgers is an underrated player. He played very well in difficult circumstances last year. But you see this every year. I mean, Richard signs a 1-year contract. He goes on the free agent market. Nobody jumps on him because his age, because he's not fast, because he can't do this, he can't do that. The 1 year he did sign with Washington, then he came back. I mean, nothing against Richard Rodgers, but you got to keep that long-term sort of upside, I would think, if I'm Howie Roseman. So if Zach Ertz is here, yeah, you got to cut Richard Rodgers and keep Tyree. Obviously, if you trade Zach Ertz, then it becomes easier. Yeah, and you just keep Dallas and Richard and Tyree. And then Jack Stoll has also been impressive as an undrafted rookie at times, but you can get him through waivers because that's just a typical tight end. He doesn't have this eye-popping athleticism or size. You could get him through waivers and get him on the practice squad.
All right, John, two-part question. Number one is about Tyree Jackson, as you're just talking about. I give Jeff credit. He knew exactly how to look this up for me. Greg Ward's been here the last 2 years, and it took until the last game last season, in a game in which the Eagles were, in some people's opinions, attempting to lose to improve their draft status, that they finally got Greg Ward to throw the football downfield. And from the day Ward was activated for the Eagles, when are we going to run the end around? The former quarterback, we could fake him out with that one. Trick play. Got to have it. Didn't do it in 2019. Didn't do it for the first 15 games of 2020. They finally rolled it out there last week, and he completed a pass to Travis Fulgham for 15 yards. How do you get a dual passing play in for Tyree Jackson if he's actually going to be active? I know if the two tight ends are healthy, he's never going to be active. He's going to be one of those guys sitting up in the booth if he's on the roster. Can they work that in? Will Sirianni get that in? I'm rooting for it to get here before it took almost 2 full years to get Greg Ward a chance to throw the pass. The tight end double pass doesn't happen much in the NFL, John. Can Nick Sirianni make it happen?
Yeah, I mean, they can make it happen. Obviously, Tyree got asked the question. He said he hasn't thrown the football at all yet. I mean, ultimately, I get it. You know, fans get excited about trick plays.
Yes.
Philly special. Trey Burton was a tight end.
Correct.
So, yeah, you can do it. You're not going to live on it. I mean, look at Logan Thomas has made this transition. That's what you're going for. You don't see him throwing the football 10 times a game. I mean, you can't live on trick plays. Might they pull it out somewhere down the line? Yeah, he has a skill set capable of it if you think you can fool somebody. You might see it. But, again, he's not going to be ready to play right away in a regular season game. I doubt you're going to break it out in the preseason game because you don't want to show it if you got it in there at some point down the line. But he is a quarterback, former quarterback. He was a highly successful quarterback like Greg Ward. It's a good comparison. Trey Burton was a quarterback in high school, recruited to be a quarterback at first before he made the transition wide receiver position. I mean, Tyree Jackson is just he looks like an NBA power forward. He's just so big, so athletic. And again, he's ahead of the game from a hand standpoint because he just seems to have a natural affinity for it. And then he's ahead of the game from a route running concept because he understands routes from being a quarterback. I just think he's a great prospect. And, he mentioned his old coach who, got him on the train to make the transition. He's a better athlete than Logan Thomas. And you see how good Logan Thomas is. That's your upside. This is a big time prospect. And I don't think people realize it because obviously it's a non-traditional route.
Now, how much do you think a Tyree Jackson, for example, would play Thursday night? You would figure he's going to get a lot of the reps.
Yeah, he's going to play. He's still raw. All the accolades I give him, he still needs a ton of reps at the tight end position. I just don't think you're going to get some of the frills. He's going to play tight end because that's ultimately what they're going to try to make him into. And he needs a lot of reps, especially when it comes to the blocking part of the game. The one advantage there he has is he's 6'7", 250. So he can just get in front of people and accomplish things that others can't. And that's what you want him getting ramped up on, is just what normal tight ends do.
John, you mentioned about bringing Richard Rodgers back. He goes, he comes back, he goes, he comes back. Same thing for Blake Countess yesterday, coming back to the Eagles again. He's been here, he's left, he's been here, he's left. They're bringing him back again. I guess Melifonwu got injured, so they got an injury settlement and let him go. This is just to fill out the preseason, right? We're not counting on Blake Countess being in the Eagle lineup this year, are we?
No, it's completely a camp body type thing. They needed a safety. Remember, Rodney's not ready to go. So they needed that. It is the preseason. You want the 90-man rosters. It is going to be 97 degrees on Thursday. You want as many bodies as possible to get through not only those reps, but the practice reps as well. It's a camp body. Unfortunately, that's one of the dirty parts of this industry. Guys are brought in essentially just to be a camp body. But you're right. Blake's been here so many times. I call it the Julian Vandervelde Award. There's a lot of guys. Casey Tucker. Julian was signed and cut so many times. We used to joke they had him in a cot. He just lived in the back. And they brought him in each and every time. Casey Tucker's been here a lot. You just get comfortable with some guys. They're good guys. They're going to work hard. They're going to do what you ask. But yeah, he's not going to be a part of this team.
I got to give Dave Spadaro credit for this one. Sunday, he asked Nick Sirianni about, how does Jalen Hurts running the football factor into his, and he didn't mention it, obviously, because he works for the Eagles, but his struggles in practice and how he's going to, I guess, counteract it. And Nick, he gave a detailed answer, but I thought it was a whole lot of nothing per se. But overall, John, do you feel when these games start that will mask Hurts' struggles a bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's where the RPO part comes in. I think that's going to be a big part of his game. And that's, I've talked about this for a lot, and Jody has heard me ask too many people, what can Jalen Hurts do to be the long-term answer of this team? I think it's going to be very difficult for him because Jeffrey Lurie, this comes from the top down. And by the way, Jeffrey Lurie is right. He believes you need a top-tier passing offense to be a consistent winner in the modern NFL. I agree with him. I think he's completely right. I think Nick realizes for what he has right now, he's got to go in a different direction. And ultimately, those two will clash heads after the season. And the Eagles will say, we got to go get a more consistent passing quarterback. That's where I think we are. That's why I think it's a transition year. But, while Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback of this team, Nick is going to try to accentuate the strengths of the player and mask as many deficiencies as possible. And that means RPO, RPO, RPO.
Has the non-success in the playoffs of the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, and I know Lamar Jackson won an MVP, but they haven't advanced in the playoffs. They haven't made a Super Bowl. Forget about winning a Super Bowl. If Lamar Jackson was leading the Ravens with his type of game, their type of game, the Ravens, which isn't 5,000 yards pass heavy, if they had done more, do you think Jeff Lurie would be more amenable to a run heavy offense as a potential to get the Eagles back to the bowl?
Yeah, I do. I think if Lamar Jackson was here, he'd shift his thinking. But I think that's a very, very unique player who's just on a different level from an athleticism standpoint. You're getting to the playoffs. You're having this tremendous success in the regular season. He has an MVP season, and the playoffs haven't shaken out the way you want. But then you go back to the old Andy Reid sentiment. Look, so many things have to happen for you to win a Super Bowl in this league. Everything from injuries. Football people hate to use the term luck, but you got to get lucky at certain points of the season. And Andy's goal was always, let's get to the playoffs. Then maybe the stars align. And I think that's where Baltimore is. They're going to be a playoff contender. And if you get to that position each and every single year and you develop that consistency, I think that would change the level of thinking of Jeffrey Lurie because of the player is so unique. But I think his overall sort of mindset, there aren't a lot of Lamar Jacksons out there. There's one. That's it. You can try to make tortured comparisons. There are no comparisons. So he's a little bit different, but he's an outlier. So where I think Jeffrey is correct is that it's easier to be consistent and from a winning standpoint on this team if you have a top-tier passing offense. And I think he's right on that. I kill Jeffrey Lurie a lot. I hear about killing him too much. In this instance, he is 100% correct.
Here's the thing I think is ironic, John. Like, throughout most of Jeffrey Lurie's ownership, he had Cunningham, I guess, his first year when he bought the team, and then, Ray Rhodes benched him, and then you had mostly Donovan McNabb in the Michael Vick era. Like, so he knows probably more than anybody how the quote-unquote running quarterback ultimately does, even though they've had a great deal of success with these guys.
Yeah, well, a couple things. The game has changed drastically, even from Jeffrey first bought the team. I mean, it's a completely different game. I think if you look at Donovan, I don't think it's not having a running quarterback. I don't consider Donovan McNabb a running quarterback. He was a quarterback who could run, and that's fine. I mean, you have the Patrick Mahomes of the world. He's not a running quarterback, but he can run. When he needs to run. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best as far as manipulating the pocket. And if you're going to give him something, he's tremendously athletic, and he's going to take it running the football. As you move forward, the game has changed even from 10 years ago, never mind 26 years ago. It's just, and you see it throughout the league. I mean, you see the astronomical numbers that Mahomes and Rodgers and obviously Tom Brady at the top of the list have been able to put up. It's just easier to throw the football because of the changes in the rules of the game. And I think the smart teams understand, look, it's not easy to get players like that, but if you have that top tier passing offense, you're going to win consistently. And that's always been Jeffrey's goal.
John, you referenced it earlier about the Eagles and RPOs for Thursday night. How much do you get the reps in, get the work in, get the practice in, and how much do you want to keep under wraps? Certainly not show the Steelers, even though you don't play them again, or anyone else will be watching the tape of this game after the fact. We haven't talked at all about the defense, and we're going to get our first feel for their new defensive coordinator. We see what they've done in practice, which, oh, by the way, is dominating on almost a daily basis. But they'll be doing against a different team, a bunch of guys in a different colored jersey. How much is Gannon going to show on Thursday night? Is it important for him to put certain principles in place and get them hammered home, even though it's only the first exhibition game? Or is this just still a feel-out period that he doesn't want the rest of the National Football League knowing what his defense is going to do this year?
Yeah, more of the latter. Obviously, you know, these guys, it's CIA level secrecy. They don't want to show too much. It's going to be a lot of vanilla stuff on what he wants to run. And, you know, that's everywhere in the league. I always say nobody's game planning, obviously. You're just trying – this is just an extension of practice. You're trying to work on execution, try to obviously figure out the evaluation of different players and things of that nature. And you try that to put them in positions to see what you need to see from them. But you're not really focused on the opponent. You're focused on yourself, and you're trying to get your own work done. That's sort of the mode early in the preseason. We'll see. Preseason's obviously changed. Maybe that changes a little bit for the coaches. But more majority than most, you might have a dress rehearsal at some point, but this is certainly not going to be it.
Bruce Arians kind of unveiled what the Bucs are going to do this preseason, and they have a different schedule than the Eagles. They only have one joint practice, but I don't know if you heard, John, he pretty much said, we're going to play the first team. Tom Brady's going to play a series or two. Maybe the first team will go in longer. They're going to reevaluate after the joint practice to see how much the first team plays the second game with the Titans. And then the third preseason game, this was kind of eye-opening. He said, well, we might be playing stars a little more there. Could you see the Eagles potentially doing that formula?
I think they should. I think there should be one game where the starters should play. Certainly, and when I say the starters, we all know certain guys that are aging that maybe are a little bit different. But when you talk about the young players, the young starters, and most notably, we're talking about Jalen Hurts. Yeah, I think you got to play him into the third quarter. Whether that's going to be week 3, I assume, got to be out there because he needs the reps.
All right, John, last thing. What do you got going today? And tomorrow we will not see your smiling face either live and or this great capture picture they have of you. What do you got the next 2 days before the game?
Yeah, I wouldn't say great. Tomorrow's COVID testing, so I got to go through that rigmarole to every 2 weeks. Hopefully it stays that way. Otherwise, you can't go anywhere. You can't go to practice. You can't go to games. So you got to stay in the protocol, the rotation. Of course, you know this, Jody, just as the Eagles are going to announce a Deshaun Watson trade at 10:02, whenever that happens. The COVID testing window is exactly the Birds 365 window. So 8 to 10 in the morning. So I could go early and say jump on, but you never know what's going to happen. You never going to know how things are going to shake out. So I don't want to leave you guys in the lurch. But if you need somebody and if everything goes to plan, I might be available, but I can't guarantee I'm available.
Is there going to be any walkthrough on Wednesday, or is that just hey, we're prepping for the game on Thursday?
No, they are going to have a walkthrough on Wednesday, but that's closed to the media.
No media.
We're not allowed to see that anyway.
So will you be good now? You get your COVID test tomorrow. You'll be good for the next preseason game. Then you won't have to get it.
It's good for 2 weeks. So I'm day to day, Jeff. I look 24 hours a day. I don't even know when the second preseason. You probably have a better indication from me, man. I get bogged down. I got to look at what day it is, what date. I got to look at it all, man.
All right, so I'm telling you right now, McMullen, if we can get you tomorrow, we'll punch up at some point. If we can't, don't sweat it. Yes, you're expected to be here and ready to rock on Thursday, pal.
I will be there, Jody.
John McMullen, my usual co-host, just jumping on as a guest today. We got Jeff Kerr doing the job, filling in for him. Come back. I want to follow up on a couple things we brought up in McMullen. I want to get your take on them, Jeff. Good guest coming up next hour, our very own Barrett Brooks from the middle. You see him on NBC Sports Philadelphia as well, former Eagle offensive lineman, going to jump on and give us his take leading up to exhibition game number 1, game 1 of the Nick Sirianni era. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm Jody McDonald. You're listening to Birds 365.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Birds 365, a week 1 edition. Yes, we're getting closer to the beginning of the Nick Sirianni era, which will start Thursday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jeff Kerr in for Johnny Mack with me, Jody Mack, here with you on Birds 365 on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. All right, Jeff, we are now just a couple of days from the Eagles season getting underway. I get it. Doesn't matter if they win 42-0 or lose 42-0, it doesn't count because it's an exhibition game. But we're here for the Birds fans, and certainly that's what they're going to be tuned to on Thursday night is the Eagles game. Game number 1. Does it matter from an Eagles fan standpoint whether they win or lose the game in your mind?
I don't think the result matters. I think it's how they look. And it's going to be a vanilla offense, Jody. We know that. Nick Sirianni is going to be like Doug Pearson. He ain't going to give anything away. But I think what everybody wants to know is how this quarterback's going to look. And because that's all I hear every day. You know, how's Jalen Hurts doing? Why do you think Jalen Hurts is doing so bad? You know, why is he inconsistent? Why don't you have faith in him? It's every day. It's the same thing. And I'm like, look, I actually am a big fan of Jalen Hurts, but you know, I got to report what I'm hearing, and you know, he's been inconsistent. He's got a really good deep ball, but I think fans want to see Jalen Hurts in game action. Like, I still think him being able to run kind of, I want to say it gets rid of the deficiencies in his game. Like, if he can't complete a 10-yard pass, okay, people are going to be frustrated at that. But if he can take off and get a 15-yard run or extend the play a bit and then maybe complete a pass, then I think, more people are going to believe in it. But I feel like ultimately at the end of the day, Eagles fans really want this guy to be their quarterback, definitely this year. But I think they want to see if he could be the franchise quarterback.
Understood. And we've taken a whole bunch of guys on the stream here. I get a lot of tweets on my account, calls on WIP. There is a good group of people who really want to see Jalen Hurts be the Eagles quarterback this year and don't want the Eagles to make a move for a guy like Deshaun Watson, which I can understand on a couple of different fronts. Number one, who knows what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, whether he's even going to be capable of playing or not. There's a chance that a legal case is a criminal case is brought against him. You know, the NFL is going to react in some way, shape, or form. So that's part of the trepidation with Eagle fans. But I also get the feeling that there's a percentage of Eagle fans that think Jalen Hurts is going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league. I like the guy. I'm pulling for the guy. I want the guy to become a top 10 quarterback. I wouldn't predict it because I kind of try and hold myself up to getting things right here on the air on Birds 365 or anywhere else that I broadcast. And I just have never believed that. So until I see it with my own eyes, I'm not going to predict it or project it. They're going to get what they want, Jeff. He's going to be the Eagles quarterback. Just yesterday, Deshaun Watson returned to practice for the Houston Texans. Now, we know John McMullen. We've had John McMullen on as a guest. I had him on my weekend show on CBS Sports Radio, and he said, Jody, let me repeat to you something I'd said previously. Deshaun Watson is never going to take another snap again for the Texans. John is really tied into that organization. He's been covering them forever. He's got great sources. When he says something like that, I take it to heart. Well, there are people reporting yesterday that Deshaun Watson returned to practice for the Texans. He had come in, had practiced, but not done much the first couple of days. The last week and change, they've had him supposedly injured on the sidelines. He showed up, but he's not on the field with the Texans. He returned to practice yesterday. Is there a chance that the Texans are going to try and do a 180 here and actually mend fences with Deshaun Watson and get him up to speed in time to be their starting quarterback this year? Because the league seems to refuse to act. They haven't made any statements. They haven't put him on a commissioner's exempt list. They just continue to say, well, it's kind of on you guys. We're moving forward with the season, and we don't have enough to take a stance on Deshaun Watson. Do you think John McMullen is going to end up getting this wrong and that Deshaun Watson is going to play for Houston this year?
Well, what a weird story it was yesterday, and I think this is why people were getting on John McMullen, because he did show up in practice yesterday with pads. He had his beanie on. Then he goes back into the facility, and then he comes back out again. Then he goes back in again. And the Texans have been saying, like, it's a leg injury or whatever. I refuse to believe that. I just don't think they want him around. I don't even think they want him in the building. But he's pretty much a hold-in at this point because he wants to be traded, and I'm sure they'd love to trade him. But they can, and maybe they're realizing Tyrod Taylor isn't any good. Davis Mills isn't ready. We owe something to our fans here, and this guy we're paying him. You might as well play him, and hopefully he lights it up the first 4 or 5 weeks, and a team does what Oakland did years ago and gives, Carson Palmer didn't play, but Oakland gives Cincinnati a first-round pick for this quarterback, or in Deshaun Watson's case, a lot more. But it feels like the only way he can raise his stock right now is by actually playing, even though we know on the field he's good. It's the off-field stuff. That's what people want to know. And the NFL just doesn't look like it wants even a resolution. They only want this to go away. It's going to keep lingering until Roger Goodell or this case is settled, and I don't even think that's going to get settled until next year.
Right. We know for a fact that the civil cases don't start till February. So they're not going to be touched unless there's a settlement, and both sides have come out strongly and said, we're not settling. This case is going to court. We are going to have this case heard by a judge, a jury, whatever. But there's not going to be a settlement here. Deshaun Watson isn't offering it, and the plaintiffs don't seem to want to take it. So you know when that's going to start, not even finish, just start, is next year, 2022, in February. Whether they have criminal charges that are actually brought against them and the investigation leads to an indictment, we don't know. And we don't know how that's proceeding. And the Houston Police Department is not going to have every 2-a-day updates on us. We wish they would, but they're not going to do something like that. But here's where I think it turns intriguing, Jeff. If the Texans decide to inform Deshaun Watson, listen, we're going to get you back out there. We're going to have you practice. And the game plan is we've got 4 weeks before the season starts. You're going to be our opening day starting quarterback. We know you're the best quarterback here in camp. We're going to try and win games this year. We don't look like a Super Bowl team. That would be an understatement. But we're going to try and win games, and you're going to be our starting quarterback. If Deshaun is true to his word, he should say, no, I'm not. I don't want to be here. I don't want to play for you. I don't want to risk my future. Sorry, Deshaun, you're being paid this year, and we're planning on having you as the starting quarterback. Then he has to react. It's on Deshaun Watson. The shoe flips over, and he has to walk away from the team. He's got to hold out. He's got to say, all right, then I'm not showing up for practice anymore. And I don't think the Texans are worried about collecting the fines, but then that gives them the right to turn around and tell the league, hey, this guy needs to be suspended. He refuses to show up for camp. Where do we go from here? Do you think that Roger Goodell does the Texans a favor if it gets to the point where Deshaun's not showing up, that they say, all right, we'll suspend him for you?
Yeah, I think that's the only solution right now. The Texans would have to do it, and they have to have a just cause, and that would be the only reason to do that, because they can't suspend him for what hasn't happened yet or what he's allegedly accused of doing. So this is a really tough situation. I would not want to be Nick Caserio right now. I just wouldn't, because me personally, I just be like, you know what? Just stay in the back, go away. We'll try to trade you. Like, we're not going to win this year. We won 4 games with you playing your best year last year. We're not any better. Unless they all of a sudden get in the back of their minds, oh, Carson Wentz is out. Jaguars this is the first year of a rebuild. The Titans, yeah, they'll win the division, but we might have a shot at the playoffs, and, then we'll do it. But no, their defense isn't good. Their offensive line is okay. Their running game's better. They ran the ball more, sure, but, their receivers are okay. Like, Brandon Cooks is still pretty good. Kiki Coutie's, he's solid, but at the end of the day, like, really, you want to try to get the best possible haul you can for this guy. And I just think you just got to keep him in the background at this point. And if he doesn't want to show up, say, you know what, you're doing us a favor. You honestly are. You're doing us a favor by not showing up. When you show up in pads, then we got a problem, because the head coach got to answer questions he really doesn't know anything about, and the GM won't give him anything. Like yesterday, Culley's press conference, they didn't even ask him one Deshaun Watson question. And this was, I don't know if he talked before or after the practice. I can't remember, but it was like, if they're smart, they would have Culley speak before the practice now. But it's overall, it's just a mess. So if he wants to go away and not, I'd just be like, you know what? Fine. We'll take it.
And here's the one part of the story, aspect of the story that I think has been underplayed and under-discussed. Deshaun Watson has a no-trade clause in his contract. Yes, the Texans can ask for the sun, the moon, and the stars. Other teams can try and put low-ball offers out there so they can get him for 60 cents on the dollar, because all this pending stuff is going to happen after he gets moved to another team. None of that happens unless Deshaun Watson gives his okay. Now, for a guy who's been as outspoken as he has about not wanting to be in Texas anymore, it'd be pretty tough to go, oh, yeah, by the way, no. You got a trade worked out? No, I'm not going to play for Philadelphia. No, I have no desire to go to Philadelphia. Keep trying, see if you can get me a deal somewhere else where I want to go, either to a California team, maybe a Miami team. That has not played out at all. It's because Deshaun Watson isn't being quoted at all, and he's got a legit cover to say, I don't want to talk to the media because I can't discuss my legal situation. My attorney has advised me to say nothing, be Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. But we don't even know if he's going to accept whatever trade the Texans can work out. Do you think Watson would be finicky and picky about where he lands, or do you think he's just going to want to get on with the rest of his life and take a trade to any team?
He shouldn't be. Honestly, he just should go wherever they can get the best offer for him. You really want out of Houston. If you want to reshape your image, reshape your football career, you don't have a choice. You got to go whatever team gives you the best offer. And Houston says yes. So if it would happen to be Philadelphia, I'm hoping Jalen Hurts is a quarterback for this year. But if it happens to be the Eagles, so be it. If I was Deshaun Watson, I'd say, hey, you know what? I got to face the music, and he better be ready because the fan base is already going to be tough on him, regardless of play or not on the field. It's everything off it. And he's going to have to sit up there at that podium in the NovaCare Complex Auditorium, or if they go to Lincoln, do it with Jeffrey Lurie, with Howie Roseman, and all three of them are going to have to answer the questions that he doesn't want to answer right now. That's going to be the situation. So, but if Deshaun Watson wants a fresh start, rebuild his image, we're assuming that he's learned from this. You got it. It's because that's your one chance of playing. If I'm Houston, I don't touch him. I do want to get back to Jalen Hurts, though. I did a bold prediction for him. Okay. I think he's going to get 30 total touchdowns this year. So I think that's possible, Jody. I don't know. I may be a little far-fetched there, but it is bold for a reason. But he can get 20 to 25 passing touchdowns and 5 to 10 rushing touchdowns. That's 30.
I don't disagree. I think it's bold, but I wouldn't call it outrageously bold. If he starts all 17 games, which, of course, you're banking on him staying healthy, and he is going to put his body at risk because we all believe he's going to run some, maybe not as much as Lamar Jackson, but a heck of a lot more than Tom Brady. So he's going to be putting his body at risk, and there always is the chance of injury. Even if we believe the Eagles' offensive line will have a bounce-back year because of health for guys like Lane Johnson and Brooks, that the Eagles' offensive line will be better, and Hurts will be sacked less than Carson Wentz was last year. Yeah, if he's going to start most games, great majority of 15, 14 out of 16, 30's not impossible. That's not outrageous. It's bold, but it's not outrageous. Would you say you thought the split was going to be 25-5 or somewhere thereabouts?
Like 20 to 25 and 5 to 10 for rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, I think 25 is very realistic. 30 would be nice. I mean, if he gets 30, I think you and I, and John would be having a conversation like, what are the Eagles doing? I know, and John said earlier, Jeffrey Lurie wants that Aaron Rodgers type passing quarterback, but Ertz is a good year and they win games. Like, do you really want to abandon him?
Yeah, they do. He's going to have to be. I don't know what that line is. We've been talking about this for months now. There is a line. I don't know where it is. You don't know where it is. I don't know that Howie Roseman and Sirianni and Jeff Lurie know where it is, that he's going to need to reach a level of achievement. Because if not, they're going to aggressively pursue someone else like a Deshaun Watson. Start of next year, we'll have a better idea where Deshaun's life is at and how available he is. If not, other quarterbacks could become available. And, of course, we'll all fall in love with someone from next year's draft. And can the Eagles use their draft assets to get to a point where they can draft them number 1 or number 2? I don't know what that line is. And no one can, because it depends on how things go in the National Football League this year. If Aaron Rodgers throws for 60 touchdowns and Tom Brady throws for 55, and it's just the way of the league that many more points are being scored on a week-in, week-out basis, all of a sudden Jalen Hurts is, what do you give him, 30 total, 25 passing, 5 rushing? If that's a small a number compared to what everybody else is doing in the league, well, then they're going to flip. We're comparing this to years gone by, most notably last year, and then the importance of it lessens with every year you move back. No, I don't know what the NFL. Do you think this is going to be a breakout offensive year in the NFL, Jeff?
I think there's going to be records broken. I think Peyton Manning's 65 touchdowns is in jeopardy because we have the extra game.
Right.
I don't know we'll have a 2,000-yard rusher again. I mean, I did this, I think in May, I wrote about Derrick Henry's chances of repeating as such in a 17-game season, and I was kind of shocked to know every running back that's had a 2,000-yard season, the next year they don't get over 1,450. So that's something. I know Derrick Henry's built different, but so was OJ. So was Barry Sanders. Terrell Davis got hurt, but Adrian Peterson, he was built different too. He didn't get it. So, yeah, I think a couple records I'm looking at. Michael Thomas's receptions record. I'm really – because that's 149 catches. Could be broken. I mean, guys are just catching the ball left and right. Travis Kelce's receiving yards for a tight end, he might break that himself. What do you have, like 1,500 last year? So he might do that. What was the other one I was really looking into? Receiving touchdowns is going to be tough because I think Randy Moss is 23. And I don't think anyone's ever gotten 20. I think Devontae
Adams, big number, yeah.
Yeah, I think Devontae Adams had 18 last year, and you're like, whoa. And what was there's a couple other ones. The receiving yards one, I think Calvin Johnson still has it, if I'm not mistaken. Julio Jones has gotten close. It's weird because they spread the ball around so much that it's hard for someone to get that. But overall, I think the quarterback records are the ones you're going to be looking at. Like passing yards. Yeah, those are the ones.
Quickie comment from you, and then we got to get a break in. We got back to the Eagles. Calvin Johnson inducted into the Hall of Fame. Megatron gave his speech on Saturday night. I actually thought it was pretty damn good. But he mentioned his teammates. He mentioned his coaches. He mentioned the fans of the football team that he played for. He mentioned the city of Detroit. He did not mention the Detroit Lions. He's got this ongoing beef with the Lions. He didn't like that when he retired, with time left on his contract, they clawed back some of his signing bonus. That's the rules. That's the way the NFL goes. Yeah. You sign a long-term deal, you decide to walk away, or you put yourself in jeopardy with off-the-field action. And that wasn't Calvin Johnson. He wasn't in trouble. He didn't get arrested. He didn't do anything wrong. He just said, nope, I had enough. I know I got years to go on my contract, but I'll pass. And he walked away from the game. Good for him. But he didn't think the Lions would actually claw back part of his contract. They did. $1.6 million of it, which, again, not an outrageous sum because he made tens of millions over his years in the league. But, hey, any money that someone is going to ask you to give back to them is going to be painful. And it was to Johnson. He was ticked. The Lions have, over the last couple of years, attempted to mend the fences. And specifically this year, they offered him the chance to get the $1.6 million back if he did work for them over the next 3 years. And when I say did work, that would mean like personal appearances, handshaking shows, stuff like that. A grand total of 20 some odd hours each year for the next 3 years. And they'd give him 1.5 of the 1.6 million back. And the other 100,000 they donate to his charity, which he talked about in his Hall of Fame speech. So he's trying to do the right thing by people. So that's still important to him and good for him. Didn't mention the organization at all and told them no thank you to the opportunity to, quote unquote, earn back the $1.5 million. How bad a look is this for the Detroit Lions?
Well, it's really bad considering the whole Barry Sanders fiasco when he retired. And look, this is really weird, Jody, when you have, in my opinion, one of the greatest receivers of all time. And his numbers would have been atrociously good if he could still be playing right now.
Yeah.
He's 34. He's not even old yet. Like, it's insane. And same with Barry Sanders. I think a lot of that had to do with Walter Payton tragically passing, but Barry Sanders would have been the all-time leading rusher. I don't think Emmitt Smith would have been. I think Barry would have had that for a long time, probably still right now. But just their relationships with that organization, it's you're the Ford family. You really got to wonder how you're doing business here because you have a franchise icon, an NFL icon at running back, an NFL icon at wide receiver, first ballot Hall of Famers, no doubt about it. And yet they have bad relationships with the franchise that played for them. And it doesn't even relate to wins and losses on the football field. It's, stuff they're doing. Like Calvin Johnson probably has so much pride in himself. Like, no, I don't want this. Like, I don't want to be affiliated with you anymore. Like, I was an employee for you, and that's how you treated me, and that's fine. But I don't want to be like this team ambassador for you now. If the NFL were to hire Calvin Johnson, sure. But I don't think Calvin Johnson just wants anything to do with them anymore. It's like, okay, I played for the Lions. You want to retire my number? Awesome. I don't think it's ever going to happen because, it's a bad beef. It's just the way it is. And, I just don't think it's, if 10, 20 years from now, kid's going to ask Calvin Johnson, how about your NFL career? He's like, well, I played for 10 years. I don't think he'll mention he played for the Lions. So that's just how it rolls. I just don't think he wants anything to do with them.
So, Eagle fans, if you are not overly optimistic coming into the season, after 4-11-1, if you're thinking, I think we can win 4 games again this year, that'd be 4-13 since they added one, and we're not banking on the Eagles getting a tie again this year. They're
few and far between. 16 seconds left in a tie game.
Correct. So that would be another bad year. As bad as that may be, as bad as you feel about your Eagles after going to a Super Bowl, going that backwards that quickly, hey, at least you're not the Detroit Lions because they've never been to the big dance and they can't even keep their Hall of Fame players happy in alumni status. All right, he's Jeff Kerr. I'm Jody McDonald. Quick timeout, come back. We'll continue the conversation on the Birds. Barrett Brooks from the Middle and NBC Sports Philadelphia is going to join us coming up next hour.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at IBEW98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Your Birds 365 guys on a week leading up to the first preseason game of the year for the Eagles' first Nick Sirianni game ever. Jeff Kerr and Jody McDonald hanging with you. Barrett Brooks going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes from now. Interesting take from someone on our stream here, Jeff, and I want to get your read on it. Cody said, hey, guys, I don't see Deshaun Watson wanting to come here. As I mentioned, an underreported part of the story is Deshaun Watson, if he is to be traded, has to okay it. He's got a no-trade clause in the contract. When he signed a big deal with Houston, got paid as a franchise quarterback, part of what he wanted was to control his own destiny, and they gave it to him. They gave him a no-trade clause. So we can sit here and speculate. Should the Eagles, would the Eagles, how much is it going to cost? Are they screwing Jalen? All those aspects are fun aspects of the story. And Deshaun Watson could just go, shut up. I have a no-trade clause. I'm not going to Philadelphia. But as Cody points out on our stream, he says, I don't see Watson wanting to be here because he wants a say in what their front office does. That certainly has been reported down in Houston with the firing of Bill O'Brien and the trades that have been made and the hiring of Nick Caserio. He has not been unafraid, Deshaun Watson, to step up and say, what the hell are we doing? I said, nobody talking to me. I'm the guy you tell me is the franchise quarterback of this team, yet you make all these moves, you do change all these things and take players away that I get along with, I think help us win, and no one thinks to ever ask me. So he's been kind of outspoken about that. And Cody says, that's not what the Eagles do. I don't see Howie letting him have any say anyway. But then there's a report in today's Inquirer, wherever it was, somebody saying that Fletcher Cox actually has some pretty good sway along the defensive line and moves that the Eagles have made and bringing in defensive linemen or letting defensive linemen go, that Howie does let certain individuals get in his ear and affect decisions that he makes. Which one is it, Jeff? Does Howie Roseman need to control all things in the world of the Philadelphia Eagles, or is Howie a guy who is open-minded and lets guys who have positions of importance on the team have a say in roster building going forward?
Before I start, that had to be a Jeff McClain piece, because Fletcher Cox's answer or not answer toward Jeff McClain Sunday night. It's
exactly. That's what I was referring to. Correct.
Yeah, he definitely didn't. The Eagles definitely don't want that stuff coming out, but it comes out. So I actually think they do cater to certain players, and they view Fletcher Cox as one of those guys. If Fletcher Cox wants Ryan Kerrigan there, I'm pretty sure the Eagles will go get Ryan Kerrigan for him. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's bad pub at all. And I would cater to a guy like Deshaun Watson because he is that good. And I know all the baggage and stuff, but we're talking on field. That Deshaun Watson says, hey, look, I can get a couple good receivers in here, and I know you guys have bad history of receivers, but say, I don't even know who's going to be a free agent next year, but I'll use Devontae Adams. We'll do that. Hey, me and Devontae.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player who's going to be a free agent. Good call by you.
Yeah. So, hey, I think I can get him here. He doesn't want to be in Green Bay anymore, and he's here. You got it. You're Howie Roseman. You got to say, yeah, sure. Like, I don't care what anybody says, too, with the T.O. thing. T.O. and McNabb, I think McNabb had a lot to do with T.O. coming here, too. Whether it was McNabb was good or T.O. just wanted to be here and catch passes from it. He just didn't want to catch them from Jeff Garcia anymore. I talked to Jeff Garcia about some of this at length, so it's pretty fascinating stuff. I'll save for another time. But overall, like, if Deshaun Watson wants a guy, like a receiver or tight end or a running back, you got to listen to that guy because he is 25 years old. He is a franchise quarterback. And if you let him, I don't want to say run the show, but if you let him put his input in like the Eagles would do with Fletcher Cox, I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all to listen to your players.
Do you think that with the fact that it looks like this isn't going to get done anytime soon, you and I can kick it around as much as we want? And yes, you've got Deshaun Watson being able to stop the conversation at any time with his no trade clause. What would this be like if Carson Wentz were still here? If Deshaun Watson were trying to talk his way out of Houston, and the Eagles are always looking to have the best quarterback that they possibly can have. They made a major financial commitment to Carson Wentz, which we've already seen they moved away from. So we have to at least acknowledge they would be open-minded to moving away from him again if they could do a deal and get themselves a guy like Deshaun Watson. If Carson Wentz had to deal with guys on Birds 365 talking about Deshaun Watson on a day-in, day-out basis, how much would it blow his very fragile little mind?
Well, we saw last year a second-round rookie blew his fragile little mind. Can you imagine how a good quarterback would do? Look, I can't get on Jalen Hurts that much here, but can you imagine if the Eagles would even entertain this? Like, just say, hey, look, we can flip this guy for this guy. I'm just glad he's not here anymore, Jody. I've never seen a football player ever act like that. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm so speechless when it comes to what happened last year and how it affected his play. And I think there were a bunch of other factors into this, but I think that's why the Indianapolis Colts didn't or aren't going to pursue a veteran quarterback, or Brett Hundley's their answer. He's not a threat, but God forbid Nick Foles or Marcus Mariota or somebody we could trade in Indianapolis right now, how Carson would react, and especially Nick Foles. Like, I've said this before, I still think the day it really hit Carson Wentz wasn't 27. I don't think he cares about that, but when Chris Long went to Sunoco and got the Jesus statue and all the other the candles, all that stuff, which he did get from the Sunoco gas station down the street from the NovaCare complex. He did confirm that to me. I'll tell you what, I don't know, Jody. It's one of those where it doesn't bother Jalen Hurts, and I'm glad it doesn't. Like, he's just like, and I've said this before, you know what? Until he's here, I'm the quarterback, and I'm just going to go out and do my job to the best of my ability every single day. And I think that's why Eagles fans like Jalen Hurts so much right now. Nothing bugs this guy. Nothing.
And you're here to sing his praises. I'm here to sing his praises. I love his mental toughness. I like his leadership ability a lot. It is a complete 180 from what they had to deal with last year with Carson Wentz. All those things being said, and I'm pulling for the young man, I was one of few that actually said, I get what the Eagles are doing when they drafted him in the second round. He's number one, the backup quarterback, which they needed to improve their backup quarterback position, and they wanted to do so without paying top of the market backup quarterback money. You get him on a rookie deal, a second round pick rookie deal. That's pretty damn good if you can get him up to speed. Now, when they made the pick, none of us knew that COVID was going to have the kind of effects that it did, and it kind of changed the dynamic and everything. But I liked the Eagles' line of thinking. While most people said it was outrageous and stupid and bad, and shame on Howie Roseman. The other thing that he was a safety net. Carson Wentz was an injury waiting to happen. And I know it didn't happen last year. They actually got him out before he could get hurt. And he was replaced because he was like the 34th best quarterback in the NFL, a 32-team league. So it played itself out the way it played itself out. And I had no issues with the Eagles in the way that they went about getting him, and then they eventually played him. I can't say right now that I know that Jalen Hurts is going to be a starting quarterback in this league for more than this year. I'm not ready to say guaranteed 2022, guaranteed 2023. No, I'm not ready to go there. But I know there are a lot of Eagle fans that want to at least give him the chance, and they're going to give him the chance. This Deshaun Watson thing is not going to happen before the season starts. Therefore, there's a little pressure on the young man for the first couple weeks of the season because he knows he's singing for his supper, not only for this year, but for future years going through. You think he's up to the pressure?
I think so. And look, this is why I keep saying, let's not harp on this team for how they play the first couple games of the year because their schedule's brutal. And if he plays bad, don't give up on this guy. I keep saying that too. I want to see how much better he gets from week 1 to week 18. I'm not going to judge this guy if the Eagles are 1-5 after 6 games. He's playing bad. because he can easily turn around against the Raiders or have a decent game against the Bears, definitely against the Lions. So, I just want to see him progress. I want to see him progress. I want to see him develop. And I think in a perfect world for the Eagles, they have a good year. I'm not saying they win the NFC East. They have a pretty good year. He has a good year, and they can flip him if that's what they want to do. I will be an advocate against that because I think the guy's 23 years old and can only get better. But I can't go in the mind of Howard Roseman. So they want, and McMullen's right. Lurie wants that Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes type of quarterback. The problem is they don't grow on trees. And the best way to do that, and the Eagles have learned this, is the draft. And Spencer Rattler can be that guy. I'm not sure Malik Willis can. Sam Howell may be able to be that guy. But the Eagles also had a top 2 pick once 5 years ago, and he's not here. So it's an easy swing and miss.
We'll see if they swing and miss this year with Jalen Hurts. Both Jeff and I are on record saying that we think he can get the job done and he can make the decision for the Eagles for 2022 rather difficult, which is going to be the best thing about being tuned to Birds 365, because I don't think he's coming in and putting 45 touchdowns up. Jeff said 30 for me. Count me in for 30. But I also don't think it's going to be 18 and then Joe Flacco to the rescue. So we want to see a cut and dry, decisive season for Jalen Hurts. Oh, no, I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be in the middle, and we're going to have the continued debate here on Birds 365. We'll do some debating with our buddy Barrett Brooks from the middle and NBC Sports Philadelphia, scheduled to join us next here on Birds 365.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Couple days away, the start of the 2021 Philadelphia Eagles football season, exhibition game numero uno, coached by Nick Sirianni, game numero uno. First ever chance to see the coach on the sidelines. We've seen him in practice so far, but actually being on the side, calling plays, that's something we haven't focused on much. We're hoping to get Barrett Brooks up in just a couple of seconds here. Nick Sirianni, the play caller. He learned at the right hand of Frank Reich in Indianapolis. People are going back and reviewing what the Colts did and how the Colts moved the football and the kind of play calling the Colts had. This is the first time that Sirianni will ever actually call plays in the National Football League. But if you believe he learned well from Frank Reich, anything specific you're looking for, anything you want to see, need to see, or believe you're going to see here in exhibition game number one under Coach Nick Sirianni, the Eagles play caller?
Well, I will say Nick Sirianni learned a lot more under Frank Reich than he ever could learn under Mike McCoy when he was with the Chargers. So I'll go for that. But I think what we're going to see is, I think Sirianni is going to have a little bit of, I don't want to say a twist, because I think he's going to show some part of his offense. Like, I think he'll do an RPO or two, just kind of to have him run it in against another team in a live rep. It doesn't give anything away. I mean, because he pretty much said in the news conference it's going to be a big part of the offense. And maybe he'll use some of that 21 speed, just try to spice some things up a bit. But overall, I want to see how the tempo of the offense is. If they go no huddle a lot, if they do go in a huddle, how they move the chains. Are they going to be methodical? Are they going to, are they going to be like Doug and just kind of take their time? I don't think it's going to be like that at all. But I want to see like more of what Reich did, not last year with the Colts, Andrew Luck's year, his first year, because they were pretty up tempo and they were pretty quick. And I think they can do that with Jalen Hurts. I don't think it's going to be like the year they had Jacoby Brissett, where they kind of were just going with the flow at that point. It's like, okay, Jacoby could do this, but he can't do this, so we're not going to do it. But Andrew Luck's first year, 2018, that's the one I really look at, because they kind of were doing a lot of no huddle. They were taking shots downfield, which Jalen Hurts can do. I think they're going to do that a little bit. And I know I'm going a little forward into the regular season here, but overall, I think we'll see Jalen Hurts do a couple things like that in the preseason game.
Because that is the number one thing that Nick Sirianni will be judged on. That's just the way football fans are. I'd love to say Eagle fans, Philadelphia fans. No, this is across the board. Every single team, every single fan base, if your head coach is calling the plays, they're going to scrutinize you to the bitter end. And we'll see how it goes. Game number one for Nick Sirianni. We'll be watching, as will our next guest, ex-Eagle offensive lineman. You see him on the middle here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel and also on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Here's Big Barrett Brooks.
How you doing? How's it going today?
Good, Barrett. We're just talking about Nick Sirianni, the play caller, and I gave my opinion that the fans will either love him or hate him because of his play calling. Watching practice, talking to people at the Norbert Complex. What do you think we're going to see out of Nick Sirianni, the play caller, week one?
Well, he's had the full gamut of quarterbacks, during his career. He's had a guy that can run around and do everything. And I think he's going to make sure that, the offense is going to be well suited to whoever's going to be quarterback. If it's Jalen, he might have a couple RPOs, where, run pass options. Flacco's in there. He's probably going to go deep a lot of the time or just run the offense, get it going. Those are things that you can do to help the quarterback, really get used to being out there when you call plays to the personnel packages you have out there. And I see Nick Sirianni doing that. Now, we can't really give an accurate analysis on what he's going to run, because right now they're just running plays to see what they can run and see if they can't run. And, sometimes it looks like the defense is a lot more ahead of the game, because, it's, at the end of the day, it's easier for a defense to go out there and stop plays as opposed to 11 guys on the offensive side of the ball playing in concert and running a play. So, of course, the defense is going to look a lot better than the offense. But, as time goes on, that, great offensive line. And yes, I did say great offensive line. If all those guys are healthy, can really put you in a position you can call whatever you want to call, because those guys are a top 5 offensive line in the league. And I keep telling people that they're going to be what makes this team good. Not necessarily, what Jalen does or Flacco does, or Mullins does. It's more so what those guys up front do that will dictate how the season will go.
Barrett, God knows why I did this to myself over the weekend, but I was watching some of your old games with the '97 Eagles. And I don't know why I watched the first 3 games because I have painful childhood memories of the Tom Hutton snap and whatever. But I remember the first game. Ty Detmer didn't play that well, and Rodney Peete came in against the Giants and just lit it up. Like, the Eagles wouldn't actually do that to Jalen Hurts at any point this year, would they?
Well, you know what? I mean, there's really no allegiance to who's going to be a quarterback. They've already defined that, it's an open quarterback position. Jalen's taken all the starter reps. Yes, he has. But, I don't think this organization wants to tie himself to anything until next year, really. And I assume that, they're going to give Jalen a lot more leash than they will give Joe as it pertains to that, But, I mean, you're right, man. Being in that game and understanding, what, Ty didn't play as well. Rodney came in. We rallied around Rodney, and Rodney played well, for a better part of that season because of it. A veteran guy, understood how to play. So, I mean, that was just a situation where he just took the reins and played well. But I was also, in a situation where it backfired on us also, where we had, a guy that came in against Cincinnati,
Bobby Hoying.
and we all know how that ended up. Bobby Hoying, he didn't light it up after that, because he basically wasn't the quarterback we thought we had when he played, with Gruden and his offense back then. It goes with Dana Bible the next year, and lo and behold, he wasn't as good as we thought. So, I've had both sides of that table that I've had to eat from. So, but I mean, at this point, with that offensive line, they can make anybody successful.
Barrett, you correctly, at least my opinion, gave the offensive line a ton of credit. I do think that will be the strength of the team this year, at least on the offensive side of the ball, what the O-line can accomplish. That being said, it came out, I think it was even before last week, the end of the previous week, when someone kind of spilled the beans that Nick Sirianni actually keeps track of practices and has a winner and a loser on the side of the ball each and every single practice. And the defense was dominating the offense on a day-in, day-out basis. Now, of course, Brandon Brooks isn't playing. He's day-to-day. He's been out week to week, but they're still calling him day-to-day. And Isaac Seumalo has been out of the lineup. So you're banking on putting those 2 guys back in, and it's going to be a bigger difference. But it has been dominating defense so far. If you're one of the guys who's actually in there playing, and the coach is keeping an eye and he's keeping score, and as a unit, you keep getting beat day in and day out, do you actually say anything to your teammates and go, hey, I know it's just practice, but we're losing. What the hell?
You know what?
The coach is holding this against us. Let's pick it up here, guys.
It's not necessarily that. This is the time of the year where you're getting evaluated. And all these guys should be playing to the highest point in their career, because it's a what have you done for me lately type of game, because, you do have a coaching staff that really doesn't have any allegiance or ties to older players or anything, because they're a new coaching staff. Everybody started out, not on the same plane, but, they had a fair opportunity in going out there and making a great first impression. So they have to go out there and play like there is no tomorrow, because a lot of these guys, there is no tomorrow. So when you ask guys like Hightower, who's not necessarily having a good camp, what's going on? I mean, we're losing right now. It's going to mean a lot different to him than it is going to be to a guy like, maybe a Greg Ward Jr. or JJ Otheka-Whiteside, when he's thinking of, all right, man, I got to ball out because they got all these young guys out there who've shown the ability to play. And here I am, one of the young guys, and I'm not, performing up to what I thought I was supposed to be performing up to, because I'm a second-round pick. All these things are going through these guys' minds. So they should be trying to play and compete at a higher level. They should be. You know what I'm saying? But at this point, the defense are light years ahead of them, simply because it's just the nature of how training camps go when it comes to offense and defense. It's harder to get 11 guys working in concert as opposed to, defense. You could kind of, highlight yourself just by beating the guy in front of you. On the offensive side of the ball, everybody has to work together in order for this thing to really work out. You can't have a guy freestyle on the defensive side of the ball and make a play, and it looks like, the defense is dominant. But you can't do that on the offensive side of the ball. So you have to be a little more disciplined on offense than necessarily on defense. So a lot of the time they look like they're highlighted simply because, they can, stick out a little more. You can play more like an individual as opposed on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. Ray's first year, the 95 preseason, what did he say to you guys, like what he wanted to accomplish that first game? New head coach, all that. You're probably not running most of your offensive and defensive formations there. Like, what did he say to you guys?
Well, he was like, "Look, guys, I got to make sure that I picked the best team out there." And Ray didn't have any allegiance to anybody. He had allegiance to the guys he brought in, the Rickey Watters, the Fullers. Those guys had a little more leeway than a guy that is trying to make the team. And, that's basically what he said. He said, hey, you got to go out there and play. He said it a little more animated than most, but like, a guy like me, I was his first draft choice. He made sure that, hey, you're going to take all the reps. You're not getting off the field. I need you to be better before the team come, before we start these regular season games, because you are going to be vital for this team to be successful. You're going to be starting there. So I need you to have all the reps. So he made sure that I played every single rep in the preseason. Guys like Chris T. Jones, he was the same way. Bobby Taylor had to play every single rep because, we were guys that were going to the season and start early. So, we had to play at a high level because, Ray would get you out of there too. He was cutting guys left and right. He didn't care who you were or you could be a Pro Bowler. I mean, he cut Steve Wallace, a perennial Pro Bowler, one of the best tackles in the league. He cut him, because he didn't perform up to what he thought it was. So Ray made sure he cracked the whip a lot of the time.
Now, do you think Nick would do that though? Like, just not saying Nick has the final personnel decision, how he does, but say there's no like Steve Wallace type talent on the roster that has roster bubble. But overall, do you think he could cut a player of significance, like maybe a JJ Arcega-Whiteside or something like that?
Well, I think JJ has played, a lot higher than what people give him credit for. He's had a pretty good camp. He's played better than Hightower. So, if you look at him, he's doing a lot more than Hightower is right now. So I'd have to put him ahead of Hightower. But, you look at guys like Dillard. I mean, there's no way Dillard gets cut. But at this point, he is not playing up to the ability, or the capabilities they feel as though he should be playing at. So why do they keep him around? I mean, he could be a great trade bait type of guy at this point. So those, he's a guy in a position where, he hasn't done what he's supposed to do. He's not winning the position. Jordan Mailata is head and feet above, him as far as playing level, athleticism, dominance as a player. So, I mean, why keep him around? Well, because he's a first-round draft choice. He could possibly be a guy that they would trade. There are guys that, might get cut, even though they might be, draft picks that, you shouldn't. I mean, you have to perform right now, and that's exactly what, Nick Sirianni is preaching. You perform at a high level. You show me that you want to be here. You could be around. But if you don't, you think you're all that, you could also be out of here. So there's no allegiance right now to any older guys. There's no allegiance to guys that you feel as though should be making the team just because they've been around the organization for a lot longer than other guys.
Barrett, let me follow up on Dillard. You like the guys we have on, John McMullen, day in to day out, who gets a chance to see practice. John is still clinging to the fact that he kind of believed in Andre Dillard, and he's going to give him every last chance. He won't let that battle go. God bless John for his stick. But he's going to lose the same way Dillard's going to lose. Mailata's going to start game number 1. He's going to start on Thursday night. Can Nick Sirianni maybe get into Andre Dillard's head and say, listen, I'm starting Mailata. The job right now is Mailata. I know that Nick has gone to great lengths to not name anyone a starter just yet, but maybe it's time to flip the script and say, oh, my starter is Mailata game 1. I'm not naming him for game 1 of the regular season. I'm naming him for game 1 of the preseason here against Pittsburgh. Are you hearing me, Andre Dillard? I'm naming Jordan Mailata as the starter. In other words, you're not starting and you're not a lock to be on this football team. but I'm also leaving the door open for you. Walk through it, throw it open, go out there and pancake somebody tonight. Do you think Dillard is a guy who can be mentally motivated by the coach if he presses the right buttons?
You know, I don't really think that Dillard has it in him. You know what I'm saying? I can't see it. You know, and I don't know the kid. You know, I haven't talked to the kid and you know, really picked his brain. But just from what I see on the field, you know, I just don't think that he has the heart and enthusiasm at this point to go out there and fight, man. You know, you have to fight every single play. You know, week before last, you know, I saw him tap out of a play just because he hurt his hand. You know, I mean, come on now. You got beat, you got put on your butt, then you get up, you take yourself out the game. I mean, if I get put on my ass, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna fight. I want to try to, you know, make sure that, you know, hey, you know, you're not gonna do that to me again. I don't see that in him. You know, if I get beat on one-on-ones, I'm like, hey, coach, no, let me run this over. Let's run this over. Let's run this back. You know what I'm saying? Let's go again. I don't see that in him. You know, and you know, it's a shame because he's a technique wizard. You know, he has great technique. But, you know, technique only gets you so far. Technique will get you where you're supposed to be at that point. But then it just, you know, it's got to be an inner self to saying, hey, I got to go out and whip this guy in front of me. You know what I'm saying? You know, hey, man, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, you know, he's going to take food off my plate. You know, that's what he lacks at this point from what I see. You know what I'm saying? And that's what that's the only evaluation I can give from what I see. I don't know what others are saying, but I see him out there. Every once in a while, he'll go out there and have a good play, and he'll stretch around like he's a rooster. You got to do that consistently, and I don't see that consistency in him.
Barrett, when I named the Eagles offensive line, I was on Mike Gill yesterday, and I totally forgot about Nate Herbig because they're that deep. And I mentioned like 11, 12 guys before I got to a guy who's going to make the team. So who ultimately is not going to make this roster on this offensive line?
Wow, that's tough, man. That's really, really tough, man. Because, you know, when I look at it, they do have some that, you know, like right now, the guys that are starting, Opeda, all those guys, because of, the starters are out. I don't know if they make the team. And when I look at the roster, I look at what what they're trying to do with the Eagles, the offensive line. He has Coach Stalin has a lot of guys that performed pretty well for him last year. And they had some quality reps last year. And some guys have taken it and run with it. A guy that I thought he was going to be cut last year really was what's his name? Oh, my goodness. What was his name? Oh, my goodness. Matt Pryor. Yeah. Now, Matt Pryor played horrible last year. But I see a definite difference on how he's approaching the game now. He's looking more consistent. He looked like he's battling now. Herbig, they got him as center. He's playing well. He's playing, and he came in slim, ready to rock and roll. But then they have these young guys, that came in this year. What is his name? Coyote, kid from Buffalo. He's shown me something, man. He's shown me he can play. He's out there throwing guys around and playing at a high level. So where does he fit in anywhere? If he plays in the preseason, great. They're not going to be able to hide him on the practice squad because he's playing at a level right now that I think he deserves a shot at really making an open day roster. So,
is there a chance, Barrett, along those lines, sorry to interrupt, that they basically redshirt Landon Dickerson? If he seems physically ready to play, I'm sure you'd at least like to get him out there so you can get a look at him. We know he factors in to the future of this team, and we were told that he should be back at some point during the year. But if they have this good offensive depth and they don't want to expose it to waivers, is there a chance that Landon Dickerson could sit this entire year and basically redshirt?
I don't know if he sits the entire year, but I think he goes into the season on a PUP list. Just from watching him in college, man, he brings a lot to the table, man. I mean, he's a force. He brings a lot to the table. And I was looking at him at first as a luxury pick, you have depth at the offensive line. But once I really broke down the tape that and remember the plays that I saw him play up front and close, I'm like, yeah, this kid's going to play. He's going to play early too. So, he's going to put the heat not just on, the guys that are backups, but he's going to put the heat on a couple starters also. So at this point, I see him as a guy that he's not going to make it through the year and not be on the team. I mean, he's going to be, on the not opening day roster, but he's going to be on the roster before it's all over with as a backup on game day. I see that with him.
Everything I'm reading everything I'm hearing, everything I'm told, the Eagles have pretty much crushed it with their first 4 picks of this draft. Like, Dickerson's a beast. We know that. Zach McPherson's been great. Milton Williams has been all over the place. And Devonta Smith. Like, could this be like a franchise-altering draft for, dare we say it, Howie Roseman?
Well, it's going to have to be. You know, he was on the hot seat a little bit, but I think he went through. I mean, Milton, he's shown quickness, explosiveness off the ball. McPherson looks like he's an NFL corner. He has the body, but he also has the instincts. You know, he's playing well out there, man. He's showing that he belongs, you know, out there on the field, not just as a backup, but, you know, he's going to compete. He's going to compete, you know, on the outside. So, you know, Howie may have done a lot better than what we thought, you know, at least what I thought. I'll say I'll put it with me, at least better than I thought. You know, like I said, I thought, you know, Dickerson was a luxury pick. I really did. But he's shown now that, you know, from what I've seen on film in college, that he needs to be there, and that was a good pick. They went out and got Nelson, so it kind of, you know, takes that luxury pick away because that they evidently they knew they were going to go out and get a veteran out there on the corner. So, you know, that's why they picked in the, you know, 4th round as opposed to being in the 2nd round at the corner position.
Here's one of the things that I don't know the answer to. I'm getting excited to look forward to see how actually it plays itself out. I think the Eagles are going to have a good pass rushing team this year. I know with their former defensive coordinator, he believed we're going to get there with 4, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to play everyone else back. Got to be able to cover. He just was not a blitzing guy. I think that the new defensive coordinator wants to hide things, wants to give you different looks, wants to be able to deceive you, which means they could bring some extra guys in blitzes. And when you do that, it gives all those defensive ends basically one-on-one battles because somebody's got to jump out and somebody's got to pick up the blitzer. They got some talent at the defensive end now. Josh Sweat has been, according to all accounts, maybe the best defensive player in camp this year. Derek Barnett has tried to match him and has been hanging with him. We know what Brandon Graham is. Kerrigan is a pass rusher. That's what he does, and he brings some veteran leadership. And Cox has been moved outside. Not Cox, the draft pick, the first-round draft pick, their third-round draft pick this year, Williams. They've moved him outside. They almost have a too big a roster of defensive ends, Barrett. How do you think the coach incorporates all these guys into that defensive line rotation?
Well, they've shown it. You know, they ran a lot of bear front this year. Bear front is when you cover up the guard, both guards, and the center on the offensive line. So now you have essentially 5 defensive linemen, and you're asking your the offensive line to block all 5 guys. You never know. And what Kerrigan brings to the table, and also Avery, Jannard Avery, they bring to the table is a defensive end / linebacker type. So now they can cover a tight end or maybe a running back, you know, and you know, break off when they're blitzing, you know, that's a luxury they didn't have in the past, but they can do that. And with this bear front, it's basically to stop the run, but you can blitz off their front because now you don't know what side they're going to blitz from, what side they're going to come from, because it evens up everything. Once the center and both guards are tackled, that number count becomes kind of wishy-washy as an offensive lineman because now it evens up your front. So who do you block now? Where's the blitz going to be coming from? Which way do you slide the offensive line to? Who's going to pick up the hot guy? It all gets, you know, lost in the wash when you have that type of bare front, man. So they've shown that a lot, which allows you to be very fluent in calling plays on the defensive side of the ball because you can't guess. You can guess wrong a lot of the time when you have fronts like that. So they're taking advantage of all the guys they have when you have 5 defensive linemen on the field at one time. And I think that's one of the better things you can do because you have the autonomy of having a Kerrigan and a Jannard Avery who can play linebacker and rush the passer as a defensive end.
I came out with my 3 bold predictions for the Eagles this year for CBSSports.com, and my number one was, and I actually think he can get it, Devonta Smith's going to get 1,000 yards receiving this year. The extra game definitely helped. But what is going to separate him from Jamar Chase, who I think is going to be an absolute stud in this league, and Jalen Waddle?
Well, his ability to run routes, his route running is elite. And the biggest thing he brings to the table, he can catch. He catches consistently. We haven't had a guy like that in a long time who when you throw the ball to him, they're going to catch it. Alshon was that guy. He keeps the chain moving. Well, I think Smith is going to be the same way. He can keep the chains moving. You might not have the huge, big plays, and he'll have a couple, but he's going to be a guy that you can go to on crucial situations when you have to run a slant and you have to get the ball to the guy to get the first down. He'll be the guy that I think Hurts is going to look for. We had we had so much inconsistency. I equate him like an Irvin Fryer type of player. Irvin would just get the chains moving. Irvin would catch the tough catch. Irvin would make sure that he got to the sticks, caught the ball to keep the offense on the field. I think that's Devontae's place on this team as a number one, and I think that he's going to fulfill that. He will have a lot of, yardage simply because the volume of catches he's going to have because he's going to catch consistently.
Barrett, last one for me, and I'm taking you back into your playing days. We love the Barrett stories. What was the toughest game for you to ever get through? Because I checked the weather before we came on. It's going to be about 91 degrees at kickoff on Thursday night. We got a heat wave coming in, and it's still going to be there on Thursday night. So out there, first practice, fully padded, first exhibition game, and it's going to be hot. What was the toughest game you ever played physically that you had to get through? That at some point you said to yourself, wait, how much time is left on the clock? I'm not going to make this. This is not happening. I'm going down here, and I'm going down hard. Did you ever have a game like that during your career?
Yes. And it was my rookie year, and it was in the preseason. And this is really where I thought, like, man, am I going to make it in the NFL? I'm not going to be able to play. But we played, listen to this, in Mississippi. We played a game in Mississippi, a preseason game in Mississippi. In the summertime, it was preseason. It was so hot out there, man. I call it Africa hot. That's how hot it was, bro. It was like we sitting right there on the equator, man. It was so hot. We were closest to the sun, man. And we played a game against the New York Jets there. And I can remember being in that game and halfway through the second quarter, I'm like, I'm not going to make it. I'm about to fall out. I had to go in and get an IV at halftime, man. That's how hot it was, man. It was hot. It was the hottest I've ever been in my life. In fact, I can remember flying back on the plane, and you would just hear guys as they're flying back, and you'd see the training staff run back there, and they'd be putting an IV in guys because their body were locking up. There was no less than 15 guys who had IVs running at a time on our flight back from Mississippi. I don't know why we played a game in Mississippi. If you look it up, we played a game in Mississippi against the New York Jets. It was crazy, man.
Barrett, I actually saw something on one of the highlight reels. You remember the game where Ty Detmer and Rickey Watters were basically like flipping out over Rickey Watters? I guess the alligator armed another catch or something like that.
Yes.
Like he has like a 30-yard run late in that game, and like I see your face, and you're like, I was like, wait, is that Barrett Brooks doing that? And then I turned around, I like froze the thing, and it was. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, I see Rickey.
It was crazy, man. Because playing with Rickey, man, was, it was definitely it was cool, man, because Rickey would give you everything, man. He'd be cussing us out because we'd block, he'd back 9 yards, he'll run 9 yards, he'll run 6 yards, he'll run 4 yards, he'll run 6 yards, then he'll break one for like 10 yards. But then Charlie Garner would come in the game. And then he'd break one for like 30 or 60, and he'd be yelling, oh, you guys aren't blocking for me like you're blocking for Charlie. No, Charlie just needs this much room. He doesn't need that much room, So it got to a point where, Guy McIntyre was like, look, man, you say one more thing about us blocking, man, and it's going to be a problem. So, it was kind of crazy, that you say that, because Rickey always thought we were blocking harder for him. But in all actuality, Charlie didn't need much to break it loose. You know what I'm saying? Plus that breakaway speed that he had. But, I mean, come on, man. You got 9 yards here, 8 yards there. You know what I mean? He was, he would have like 135 yards, but it'd be on like what? 25 carries, and Charlie would have 120 yards on 3 carries. You know what I mean?
John Gruden loved him some Charlie Gardner.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did, man. Yes, he did. So, but it was great, man.
Barrett, now all you have to do is put up with Harry and Eitan. So It might not be 110 degrees in Mississippi, but we know that's heavy lifting, and you have to sweat it every day with those two knuckleheads, too.
Thanks, guys.
We appreciate you coming out with us today. We're going to have you on plenty during the season, buddy. Enjoy the game on Thursday.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
Barrett Brooks from the middle here on with us on Birds 365. You catch him coming up in a couple hours right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. All right, we'll come back. Myself, Jeff Kerr. We still got a couple of minutes left to put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Mac guys, that's the usual pairing here on Birds 365. It's Jody and Jeff. We usually have matching M's. We got matching J's here on Birds 365. Last couple of minutes, we'll be back in tomorrow, which will lead into the first preseason game of the year for the Eagles. I was going to tell this story while Barrett was here with us, but we had already kept him half an hour, and it does. You made your prep time necessary to work with Eitan and Harry, so didn't want to overstep our boundaries and keep Barrett any longer than we needed to. I don't know if you've ever heard this. I know I've told this story on WIP before. I don't think I've ever told it here on Birds 365. My meeting Rickey Watters story, Jeff. Have you ever heard me tell this one?
I don't think I've ever heard you tell this.
Okay. Myself and my ex-partner, Glenn Macnow, who I know you know, doing a show from Pizzeria Uno in King of Prussia, right in front of the King of Prussia Mall, as a matter of fact. And we're an hour into the show, started at 10 o'clock, so it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, somewhere thereabouts, sneaking up on 12. And our producer back at the studio tells us, he had just taken a call from someone who claimed to be Rickey Watters' agent. I think it was Blaine something. I forget what his agent's name was. Blaine Pollock, maybe. And he said he was Rickey Watters' agent. We knew who Rickey Watters was. And he said he wanted to know if Rickey stopped by the Pizzeria Uno, would we put him up? And we told the producer, what'd you tell him? Because it was how he's having this conversation off the air while the show is ongoing. He said, I told him, yeah, we'd put him up. I said, okay, well, here's what I know. I can recognize Rickey Watters. If he walks in here, it won't be a somebody who can pull a fast one on us like you can on the phone. Say that you're Rickey Watters, you get on, you can tell the guy doesn't sound anything like Rickey Watters. All right, we got punked. So I said, okay, let's see if Rickey Watters shows up. Damn if a half an hour later, guy walks into Pizzeria Uno, and it looks like it's Rickey Watters. And I said, Mac, I think that's Rickey Watters. So the guy comes right over to our table and just shakes our hand and sits down. Doesn't wait to be invited, just sits right down. We had an extra chair right in front of a microphone. We had the producer set up an extra microphone in case he showed up, which he did. And he just starts shooting the breeze with us. Out of nowhere, he booked himself onto the Mac and Mac show. And we let him do it. And it was good. We went back and forth for a while. And Rickey this was before he signed with the Eagles. He blatantly is recruiting the Eagles to sign him as a free agent. He's talking about, it was during the free agency period. He had his contract had ended with San Francisco. Where was he going to sign? There hadn't been a lot of buzz about him potentially joining the Eagles, but Rickey was going to make it happen. He came in and he basically gave a stump speech as to why the Philadelphia Eagles needed him. And at one point he said, and Rickey wants to come home. Well, I don't like, number one, when athletes refer to themselves in the third party. And he did say, Rickey didn't say, I want to come home. He said, Rickey wants to come home. And he's from Harrisburg, which I know is on that borderline. Can you call it Philadelphia or not Philadelphia?
He went to McDevitt, and LaShawn McCoy went to McDevitt, and McCoy always considered himself an Eagles fan, so maybe that's what he was referring to.
I didn't know, but he did say, and Rickey wants to come home. And I just looked at him and said, yeah, but you're from Harrisburg. And he didn't like that at all. He looked at me like, if looks could kill, wait, you're stepping on my recruiting to Philadelphia Eagles. You're questioning the fact that I consider Harrisburg, Philadelphia, my hometown team, my Philadelphia Eagles. I swear to God, I thought he was going to hit me. And he said, no, Harrisburg is Philadelphia. Yes, I am coming home if I were to sign with the Philadelphia Eagles. And damn if he didn't. Within the next 10 days, he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Glenn and I bent over backwards to take credit for getting Rickey Watters to come here to Philadelphia. And then what's he doing his first game as an Eagle? For who? For what? Oh, man. And we were taking credit for bringing Rickey Watters in all off season. We helped to get Rickey Watters here. Yeah, he showed up at the pizza, and talked his way onto the Philadelphia Eagles with the Mac and Mac show. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a story I like to tell.
So I was 7 years old when Rickey Watters came. So I'm really starting to get into the Eagles at this point. And my dad was a football junkie. So, and I knew a bunch, I didn't play midgets or anything like that, but I was getting into it. Rickey Watters is my first favorite Eagle. So
really?
Yeah, oh yeah. So I didn't really care about for who, for what, and all that. I for some reason I forget that 97 Viking team where him and Ty Detmer just blasted each other on the sidelines, and looking back at it, like Ricky Alligator armed a pass across the middle. He should have caught it, but Ricky protected Ricky, which I'm okay with that. But if someone like Ty Detmer was having a terrible year at that time, chewing me out, I would have said something too. And then, so when he had that 30-yard run late, and that's how I had to mention the Barrett. I see Barrett's face. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, and he's going to be on the show tomorrow. And I don't know how Barrett got through that season, because you had a game where you couldn't score a point against Green Bay. Somehow you get a touchdown late. You let Favre go right down the field and let Ryan Longwell kick a 28-yard field goal for the win, and he misses it. I don't know that. And then literally the next week you have a 10-point lead against the Cowboys. You blow that. You still get in position to win the game from the exact same distance, and Chris Boniel can't get the kickoff because Tom Lutton botches the snap. And remember that game?
Oh, I remember that game.
Solomon had like a big
Monday nighter, right? That was a Monday night game.
Yeah, it was. I'm like,
late night. Yeah.
I can't imagine what WIP was like the next day. But.
Oh, yeah. And we talked. And, of course, it was all Boniel's fault because he was an ex-Cowboy. Anytime you can blame the Cowboys for an Eagle loss, you know for sure that Eagle Nation is going to jump on that. All right. We got a good one coming up tomorrow. Les Bowen, our buddy, is going to join us. And pal of yours, one of your CBS contemporaries, is also going to hop on with us.
Yeah, Brian DiArdo is going to be on tomorrow. He was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend, and he focuses on the Steelers and the AFC North. So good day to have him on tomorrow.
And we'll have Brian DiArdo and Les Bowen. We'll both be with us tomorrow. Should be a good one. JK, good job today. Thanks, buddy. I will see you in the morning.
Yep, see you tomorrow, Jay.
Yeah, no.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.